How much belly fat do you have right now? Let's look specifically at body fat. You may be at 50%, wide waist, protruding stomach, 40% being a bit smaller, but still no sign of actual visible abs. And then you get to 30% where the stomach's not protruding so much, but you still can't see the abs. But that's when 20% comes around and you start to see that toning, that definition begin to come in through the abdominal. And 10% is where the beach body and then the fuck you abs really come in. And here's an example of me at 8 to 10% body fat, something you guys would think is unimaginable for in your own scenario, but yet it was sustainable for me. And it's something that's possible for some of you. But obviously I could go even lower than 8%, but it's just unrealistic, it's not healthy, and it's not just gonna serve you in any way. Because yet again, you wanna maintain this for life. So being in that 10 to 20% is a huge part of having that six-pack forever in a healthy manner. But I'm gonna go over exactly how you can get your six-pack to pop out just like mine has. And for some of you, this is possible within the 60 days. Through 3 keys that I learned over coaching hundreds of people to get that six-pack. Number 1, what mindset and mental barriers do we have to break in order for you to keep moving forward and be consistent? And number 2 is nutrition. What exact amount of food do you need to eat in order to get there? And that's as long as you're consistent with the plan. And the third one is training and how to shed that unwanted body fat while building the abs with just 2 exercises. And let's first talk about the mindset. And it's crazy to me that nobody talks about the psychological. They only focus on the science because people think the more science they add in, the better results they're gonna see. And the problem arises where no matter what you add in, if you can't stay consistent, you're not gonna see results anyways, no matter how much science you put in. The whole point of this whole entire video is you can have the right mindset to follow the things I give you. Otherwise, they would be pointless. And where most people go wrong with their mindset is they don't believe things will get easier. And there's something in the brain called neuroplasticity, where when you do something over and over again, your brain has the ability to adapt and change. And that comes through practice. And that explains why repeated things you do over and over again become easier and easier. It's like the first time going back to work. When you haven't been back to work or school, it's really hard to wake up in the morning. But as you do it over and over again, you start getting used to it. It's the same exact concept when it comes to exercise and nutrition. So if we understand that, if we do this thing every single day, it just becomes a part of us. But the exact opposite is true. The less you do, the harder it does get as well. And that incorporates your mental acuity. And they're just cognitive skills like habits and discipline. The less you actively use them, you become less sharp, making these simple tasks you were doing previously way more mentally demanding than they otherwise would be. So take that motivation you have now and build the momentum. This kind of stuff does not come around all the time. So it's important to act right away. And even then, you can have the best mindset in the world, you can manifest all you want, but if you're not taking action, it's just not gonna do anything. Your abs are not just gonna appear out of nowhere. And that's where number 2, nutrition is the best first step. Everybody's got a kitchen, everybody has access to it. So let's set up your shredding diet. It's stupid easy. So for calories, just multiply your body weight in pounds by 10 if you want to go a little faster. If you want to take it a little bit slower to cut down and be in a caloric deficit to lose weight, you just want to multiply it by 12. But that weight also includes muscle. To avoid that, you're also going to need some protein. So for protein, I recommend per pound 0.82 to 1.25 grams per pound of body weight, which I'll make another video. You guys leave in the comments, let me know if you want to see another video on that. And then as far as your fat intake goes, 0.3 to 0.5 grams per pound of body weight. That's just gonna help with hormonal balance, cell function, make sure everything's running good. And then the rest of the calories you have, just fill them in when you track them with carbohydrates. And I'm gonna leave a list on the screen of exactly what to eat. And I just pick throughout that list. And you can even add sugary treats, Rice Krispies, whatever that might look like to you. But you have to understand they're not good long-term, because one, they're not gonna fill you up, make you feel full, satiated, and they don't have much nutritional value. Yes, you can incorporate them from time to time, but long-term, you want whole single ingredient foods that are gonna make you not only feel good because of the vitamins and minerals, but also fill you up and make you feel like you've eaten more. So always the simple way to go about it is just 80% whole foods, 20% a little bit of dirty foods, but as long as you stay within those calories. It doesn't mean 80% of the time track, 20% of the time you can just eat whatever you want because you end up overeating and you will not get the abs you're looking for. And here's a full summary of the whole entire shredding diet, so you can take a screenshot of that and make sure you save that for yourself later so you can take it and use it. Now let's talk about the meat and potatoes of the journey, and that is the training. And over again, I see these sweaty dudes on Instagram, TikTok, doing these fancy circuit training workouts where you do a lunge into a press, and it's just complete bullshit because you cannot take the muscle that you're trying to train to failure. So it ends up being shitty cardio and it just doesn't work out for the goals you're trying to have. Versus these other things we're gonna go over are gonna make all the difference. So we have to train the abs like any other muscle. And the whole goal is to develop them so they push through the skin. You're not gonna do that with the crappy cardio. You're gonna do that by progressively adding weight, which you would use through double progression. Which means you have two forms of progression, which you just add weight or add reps every single time you go in so you know you've built muscle. To do this, we'd only need two exercises, a decline crunch and a leg raise. Starting with the decline crunch, this is gonna develop the top section of the abs, that six pack. But you first have to start with locking in the legs in the position of the machine. And once you do that, you just have to remember this is a crunch, not a sit-up. So what you wanna do is round your spine, right? Round yourself as if you're doing a crunch. You're not trying to sit up because that's gonna incorporate your hip flexors and it's not gonna stimulate the abs like we want. So you have to almost imagine like you're curling into a ball, all while keeping your lower back on the pad the whole entire time, or else, like I said, it'll turn into a sit-up. And all you need to do to increase the weight is grab some plates. And the farther you put it away from your hips, the more leverage you have, so the heavier the weight's gonna feel. So what you can do is start it at your stomach, then you put it to your chest, then you put it to your head to slowly progress beyond that. Because if you have leverage, so the farther something is away, the heavier it's gonna feel. Because you can do this once to twice per week, 4 sets, 12 to 15 reps. Make sure you wait 2 days in between, that way they have a full time to recover. And when I say go to failure, all that means is you cannot perform another rep despite all the effort you put in with good form. And I know most of you guys probably thought I was gonna forget about that famous V taper that all you guys are looking for. Yeah, you want the visible six pack, but just as important is that V taper. And even though that comes down to a lot of genetics, we still want to fulfill that potential no matter what and develop it as much as we can. We don't want to be victims of our own situation. And then all we need is a leg raise, which you can do it on the same machine you did the decline on, or you can even hang from a bar, but I prefer it from the decline bench because we can put the most stress in the stretched position of the abs, which most muscles grow the most in that stretched position. And if you can't lift your legs straight on, you can just bend your knees and slowly extend them as you progress further instead of adding weights. And if abs in general are just more of a priority for you, you want to add them in the beginning of a workout, whether it's before chest, back, legs. If that's more important to develop than those muscles themselves, because the exercises that oftentimes come first are going to be developed the most because you're the freshest. Because as you add fatigue throughout the workout, what ends up happening is it compounds. So as you add fatigue, each set you do further gets less and less stimulative. And you may ask, okay, what about the obliques? But we don't really want to train them, and I've never been a fan of training them because I don't want to accentuate my waist any way possible. If you were in the scenario where you do want to train them, I'd recommend stability exercises where you hold something next to you. Static stuff, so you can build the strength up in them, but you don't necessarily have to take them through a range of motion, which would make them more likely to grow. So here now is your six-pack plan for the whole entire week. Just screenshot it. And I know I was shitting on cardio a little bit earlier, but not cardio for our specific goal. If it's our goal to do cardio and burn calories, we better do it the right way, not the wrong way. And even though it might not be necessary to lose fat, I've especially noticed fasted, or you do it just before you eat in the morning, that kind of cardio ends up helping with the digestion, making your waist look thinner. There's actually science behind this as well. And I just recommend 30 minutes to an hour of zone 2 cardio every single day, or do as frequent as possible and slowly increase as you go throughout your cutting journey and trying to get that six pack. Just make sure it's not too intense, or else you're sacrificing the possibility of losing muscle, as well as increasing your hunger or your ghrelin hormone, which would end up causing you to overeat at some point and extending how long it takes you to get to this point you want to be at. That goes for running, jogging. All those kinds of things are going to be high impact. They're going to require a lot of recovery. It's not that they're bad and you can't do it, it's just you're sacrificing some things and you'd otherwise be better off not doing them at all. Which overall, it just causes you to cheat on your diet or make this take even longer, and you might lose some muscle in the process. But at the end of the day, it might take you longer to get to that physique you're looking for. And as far as anything else, you just might need that break. This might be the only other mistake you ever make, is not taking the break sooner. Because what ends up happening is that break catches up with you because you cheat on the diet and then mentally you make the switch that you gave up. So it's even harder to get back in track of things. So you otherwise would have been better off just returning your calories up to a maintenance calorie. So multiplying your calories by 16 to 18, which then would allow you to get back to a point where that psychological, all that fatigue psychologically is gone. And you return to a point where you're relaxed. So all it means is you're not gonna gain any fat and you're not gonna lose any muscle. You might actually build some muscle in the process, get stronger. But what ends up happening is all that mental stuff going on disappears, and then you hop right back into the cutting phase and you start losing weight again when you otherwise wouldn't. And for all of you that might be asking, I hear this a million times over from people online, from my clients, they are so worried when they cut down that they're gonna lose muscle. So how do you make sure that never happens? Well, if I asked you, if you went from a 135-pound bench press to a 225-pound bench press, do you think you built muscle in that process? You most likely would say yes, right? So what does that tell us? It tells us that strength is a driver of muscle growth as long as form stays the same. So if you've maintained strength throughout this cutting period, or even built strength, that means you're maintaining, if not building, muscle as well. So all you gotta do is just make sure you keep track of that, where you write it in a notebook, you find an app, whatever it might look like. And that's all you need to get fuck you abs. And if you found value in this, I created a free video, which I'm gonna link down in the description, and it's an exact video breaking down the blueprint I use to shred fat and pack on muscle beyond just getting abs. And I really want you to check that out if you're truly serious about getting in shape and making this change for life. It's gonna show you everything I use to get exactly to this point in my life physique-wise. And it's showing you exactly how I got to this point physically.